and welcome back to another episode of It's All Connected, the Illuminerdi's very own superhero show. I'm Corbin Shanklin, I'm an Illuminerdi journalist, and these are my co-hosts.
I'm Richard Nebens. I'm another writer for the Illuminerdi, Marvel, and actually starting to branch out into other stuff this week. Maybe I'll get into it later, but glad to be back and got a lot to talk about.
I am Bryce West. I definitely have not been doing Marvel because that's been Richard's job here recently with all the Marvel stuff that's been going on. No, that's crazy, man. Like
Got a lot to talk about.
Hopefully we can get some people in to help you out there with some of that because, man, oh man. But I do mostly do a lot of Power Rangers stuff on the Illuminerdi, but I also love Marvel, DC, all that kind of jazz. So, and we had a lot of Power Rangers stuff going on here recently too, because we recently interviewed the showrunner Simon Bennett, and we had a whole bunch of articles come out about that. So it's been pretty busy, but not too much Power Rangers news, but a lot of cool stuff that we've been releasing here lately. So
very cool.
Yeah, that was awesome. So I think the first thing that we're going to get into today is big Spider-Man news. Richard, why don't you tell us about that? We can get a
So
when is there not Spider-Man news?
Oh God, we're gonna have Spider-Man news literally every day until this movie comes out.
Yeah.
Anyways, so yeah, we got two exclusives this week. One I wrote, one I didn't write. One I didn't write was actually the major one. News that Willem Dafoe and Thomas Hayden Church are now in talks to come back for Spider-Man 3, because at this point, who isn't confirmed to come back for Spider-Man 3? Love it.
Yeah.
The thing I've always said about this movie is I'm cautiously optimistic. There are so many characters confirmed to come back for this movie already. We've listed through all of them before, and now we've got, potentially the Green Goblin and Sandman from the original Sam Raimi trilogy coming back. We don't know how big their roles are going to be. We've heard, differing rumors that some of them are just going to be cameos and some are going to be major players. But, I mean, if I'm going to date myself a little bit, Spider-Man 1, the first Raimi Spider-Man movie, is the first movie that I truly remember seeing in theaters. I was about 11 years old when it came out. Dafoe was terrifying. I've personally always said that Thomas Hayden Church's Sandman was completely underused, done dirty, all that stuff, because he got stuck in with Topher Grace's Venom and all that stuff. But they're coming back, and I'm excited to see where this goes and see how they work into this massive movie.
Richard, it's actually quite funny that you say that, because the first Spider-Man movie that I ever saw in the theater was The Amazing Spider-Man in 2011 when I was 11. So,
man,
it's kind of funny how that works. But
right. The first superhero movie I remember seeing in theaters, not the first movie, but the first superhero movie specifically, was Spider-Man 3. Topher Grace, Sandman himself. So,
yep.
This is kind of coming full circle for me. I think in the case of Sandman, I feel the same way about Sandman coming back as I do Electro, right? I like Jamie Foxx. I like Thomas Hayden Church. I think they're both great actors, and their characters had some serious potential that just was not capitalized on, right? So Sandman, I'm here for, Green Goblin, I mean, it's, as I was telling Richard before the show, I'm just nervous because I hold that villain in such high regard. I think of those three movies, he's easily the best villain. I know a lot of people would give that to Doc Ock. I think personally, Willem Dafoe's Green Goblin blows him out of the water. He's maybe not quite, but almost on the same level as Thanos, and Heath Ledger's Joker. I really just loved the performance he gave. I'm not saying he was Thanos, but he was good. He was fantastic. Fantastic.
Who is Thanos though?
Yeah. So I have mixed feelings about it. It does also make me wonder, y'all think we could see the new Goblin? James Franco, Harry Osborn. Do we think that's possible or unlikely?
There's anybody?
I think it's possible.
I wouldn't expect Franco to come back, but at this point, anything's possible. I didn't expect Willem Dafoe or Thomas Hayden Church or Jamie Foxx to come back either. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, to your point with Willem Dafoe, I don't think they're going to bring back someone like Willem Dafoe just to mess him up.
Yeah,
you know.
that's never
So
the goal.
and yeah, well, right, but you know, this is Marvel. This is still Marvel Studios that we're talking about, and Marvel Studios rarely, well, and of course in conjunction with Sony, but they both work on this film together, and I don't think Marvel Studios would allow Willem Dafoe to come back and be a part of the MCU per se if they were just going to screw it all up. You know,
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of why Kevin Feige was always so reluctant for Venom and Morbius to come to the MCU, because they had no control over it, whereas Kevin Feige does have control of this. And so let me phrase it like this way. I don't trust that Kevin Feige would choose to bring back Willem Dafoe just to screw it all up. So, I mean, it seems like they're making, you said that, like this is a Spider-Man movie for people who like the original Spider-Man movies and people who like the Amazing Spider-Man movies. This is going to be a Spider-Man movie for everybody. I think they're bringing back people from the originals. They're bringing back people from Amazing Spider-Man. Obviously, you still have the current cast. I'm waiting for the dude who played the Japanese Spider-Man to reprise his role. You know,
the PS4 Spider-Man in there too,
dude. I mean, technically, they could totally bring back Ben Jordan, who plays the remastered version of Peter, and just have him show up, because I mean, he's the guy who did motion capture, so he's going to look exactly like him.
Right.
So they could totally do that and just have Yuri Lowenthal dub over his dialogue. That'd be kind of funny, I think. But no, I mean, look, I'm worried about this movie, but I trust Kevin Feige. So I don't trust that Kevin Feige is going to let this movie happen and it's going to suck. Yeah. So because this is the Spider-Man movie, okay? So they're not going to mess this one up. Because look, I'm still going to remain cautiously optimistic as I have been in the past couple of episodes, but I just have a hard time believing they're just going to go all out on this and then it's just going to suck. So I don't know. Well, we'll have to wait and see. But if it does come out in 2021, but that's a whole nother thing.
Yeah, but yeah, and here's my thing too. Yeah, cautiously optimistic is a great way to put it. Kevin Feige rarely misses with the MCU. They've done a pretty good job with Spider-Man. Spider-Man Homecoming, to me, is in the argument with Spider-Man 2 from the Raimi series as my favorite Spider-Man film, at least live action. You know, then there's Into the Spider-Verse, and that's a whole other level.
That's number one, no matter what. That's
I think that's probably my top one. But Homecoming and Spider-Man 2 are in the discussion for my next favorite.
That's interesting.
Yeah, and
I've never heard that before, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
No, I don't necessarily agree, but I think it's a very interesting assessment there.
But anyway, but my main point was they've got a great thing going with Spider-Man now. They're bringing back one of the quintessential Spider-Man villains from the original movie, and it's Kevin Feige pulling it all together. I think they're going to do everything in their power to not screw this up. So they're pulling out all the stops.
So one thing I wanted to talk about was there's a very small handful of villains who have appeared in prior Spider-Man movies, in addition to New Goblin, who are not confirmed, but production's still going, so it could happen. I think in the case of Topher Grace's Venom, I do not think there's any chance we see him, that version of Eddie Brock.
Why not?
I'll tell you why. So rumor has it that Sam Raimi was kind of influential in bringing back characters from his trilogy, his involvement from Doctor Strange. And so if that's true, it's well documented fact that he did not want to put Venom in Spider-Man 3. He was told to. That was a studio directive, and it didn't pan out very well. I also think Tom Hardy's Venom is probably another factor. You've got at least relatively good Venom over here. Are we really going to go try and retread that? Maybe not. Let's not. And then Lizard, who I don't know. You don't think Lizard could show up? I really have no idea.
I wouldn't be mad if Lizard showed up. I I can never remember his name for the life of me, but the guy who played him in The Amazing Spider-Man did a pretty good job with him. And I like the Kirk Connors character. I don't know how they'd throw him in with all this mess of other characters, you know, Doc Ock, Electro, Green Goblin, Sandman, and who knows if they're going to bring back even villains from this Spider-Man universe. You know, Vulture's still out there. Mysterio could maybe still be out there.
Totally is.
So
yeah,
Mysterio,
yeah, he is.
Mysterio's just chilling. I wouldn't be surprised if Mysterio is a relevant player in Spider-Man 3. I also think it would be really cool if he kind of helps orchestrate. Kind of I would imagine these villains are going to be on some sort of team together, working in unison. And, you know, it's unlikely.
Maybe a team of 6.
Yeah, maybe.
Sorry.
You know, the crazy thing is though, we've broke 6. You know, we've got more than 6 villains now, so it's going to be like them plus I don't know, they're ground troops.
Well, wait a minute. Who do we have?
Okay, so
we have Doc Ock.
Yes.
Goblin. Sandman. Electro. That's 4. Who am I missing?
Probably Mysterio.
Yeah, if we count Mysterio. Oh,
maybe Vulture.
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 Yeah. So that's 6 right there if you go there.
Scorpion was teased at the end of Homecoming as well, and I can't imagine they're going to wait until Spider-Man 4 to pay that off. So unless they pay that off in Morbius or Venom 2, then I think we'll see Scorpion in Spider-Man 3 as well. That seems highly likely to me.
I'd go more Scorpion than anybody from the Venom or Venom series.
Mm-hmm. And they are possible. Even Carnage is possible. How crazy would it be if we saw, you know, Woody Harrelson's Cletus Cassidy in Spider-Man 3? Has anyone thought of this yet? I feel like I'm the first person that's even crossed their mind.
To answer your question, that would be quite crazy. Yeah.
Spider-Man 3. That's the title reveal. It's Spider-Man 3, Maximum Carnage.
Well, here
plot twist of the year.
Please, for the love of God, do not let Sony name this movie.
Well, okay, no, but so before I get into my point about that, here's what I think they should name the Spider-Man 3. I think they should name it Spider-Man Home Away from Home, because of all the universe hopping that's going to be probably going on. So he's going to be going to like all these different universes with these different Spider-Men. I think Home Away from Home, because they're going to put home in the title somewhere at this point. Because they started the trend now. So I think Home's got to be in the title, and I think Home Away from Home is kind of the only kind of way that you can go with this to where it could tie into Spider-Verse kind of.
Yeah.
So
another one I've heard that could work, Home Run. That could possibly work out. But I like yours too.
That the movie better be a home run though if they're going to name it Spider-Man Home Run.
Yeah. Two of my favorites, you got Marvel Homeworlds. I don't remember who cooked that up, but I saw that floating around. And Spider-Man Homesick. I think Homesick would be pretty cool too, because that ties into him being on the run.
I think Homesick was actually from one of my colleagues at the Direct, because I remember one of our writers over there came up with a big list of potential Spider-Man 3 names. This was maybe like 6 months ago, and I think Homesick was one of them.
Yeah.
So.
A Homesick is the one I've seen the most often. I think a Homebound would also be a good one. Spider-Man Homebound.
I dig that. It's got like a classic like 60s Steve Ditko kind of feel to it.
Yeah.
I dig it.
But I like I just said before, I am cautiously optimistic because, you know, there are some concerns I have with the film, but I also trust Kevin Feige and the fact that the past 2 Spider-Man movies were pretty solid, that this one will be as well. My worry is that not only do we have to deal with the fallout of Mysterio at the end of the last one, not only do we have to deal with the Spider-Verse with Maguire, Garfield, and Holland, but we also have to deal with all of these freaking villains coming in all at once. And it's just like, where is this all going to fit into this movie? This movie needs to be like 5 hours for it to even remotely make sense. I almost feel like, you know, like there's just putting so much into this movie. Like I made this joke of, I feel like a million times, but it's really starting to feel like a Titans episode, and it does kind of worry me a bit. But
I'm already calling it's going to be the longest MCU Spider-Man movie to date.
I mean, Endgame was 3 hours, but I don't think that they're ever going to go longer than that. But if Endgame hadn't happened, I would say that this would probably be the longest MCU movie. Period.
It'll probably come close.
Yeah, it might be the longest non-Avengers MCU movie at this point, because I don't see them making a 3-hour Spider-Man movie, but I also don't see how they're going to fit all of this stuff into this movie without it being 3 hours at the least.
Right.
So we almost need a Zack Snyder's Justice League 4-hour. Let's split it up into 4 parts, and I mean, this is crazy. So and it just doesn't stop. There's more news like every single week. I mean, we talked about Spider-Man in episode 1, right? Well, I mean, surely. And then we talked about it in episode 2.
We'll probably
and
be
then
talking about it next week.
yeah, and then I assume
I'm sure we will talk about this every week until December 17th, 2021.
We very well could, because it was a running gag on my show that we can't have an episode if there's no Spider-Man news, because and then we have a segment to where another person does like their top 5 movies, and then this is the one week that we didn't have Spider-Man news, and I'm like, whoa, I don't know what we're gonna do. We don't have any Spider-Man news, but then he put Spider-Man in his top 5 Marvel movies, so it's like, oh well, now so we did talk about Spider-Man. So the one episode that we didn't talk about Spider-Man, we found a way to talk about Spider-Man anyway. It's so
well done.
Okay, what are you gonna do with potentially the most popular Marvel character ever?
Well, it is the most popular Marvel character ever. It's probably the most popular. Well, Superman, but it's up
He's
there.
in the discussion for all comics.
Yeah, I mean, I'd say it'd go Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, probably for the most popular.
I'd say top 3 is any coagulation of that.
Yeah, so you could probably switch around Batman and Spider-Man, but
right. But yeah, no, that's going to be crazy. And then we still have actually another exclusive to talk about. The one that I did write up. This one feels like such small news compared to Willem Dafoe and Thomas Hayden Church coming back. But the one I wrote up is actually a couple people from this Spider-Man universe are coming back. Martin Starr as Mr. Harrington and Hannibal Buress as Coach Wilson. Obviously, we don't know how big their roles are going to be, but that one does indicate to me that it's probably going to be a lot in New York, unlike Spider-Man Far From Home, where they're mostly in Europe fighting with Mysterio and everything. So they're coming back, and then they're also casting for a couple different roles. They're both unnamed, unidentified. It's an agent and a detective. The agent, they don't have a lot of news for, but there's been some names tossed around for the detective, at least. I may butcher this name, so I apologize. One of them is Marwan Kenzari. I know, Corbin, you wrote an exclusive about him, that they were looking at him for, I think, a role in Black Adam.
Villain called Ishmael.
Yeah, he was awesome in Aladdin. Yes. Like I was saying, he was awesome in Aladdin last year, and they're potentially looking at him and a couple other people. But yeah, just a couple, minor roles at this point for the filler cast of Spider-Man 3.
You mentioned Martin Starr, and I kind of made an Edward Norton joke last week with What If, but would be the absolute best moment in the movie if they did this, if they brought back Edward Norton as Bruce Banner, because it's Spider-Verse, because why not? And then Edward Norton's character walks up to Martin Starr's character and goes, "Hey, it's computer nerd number 1."
Or it's just Martin Starr eating a piece of pizza again.
Yeah, because I guess since somebody brought it up to Kevin Feige and said, "Hey, is this the same character?" And then Kevin Feige realized, "Oh yeah, I guess he was in that movie too." Kevin Feige said, "Sure," because it's the same thing that happened with Peter Parker in Iron Man 2.
That's so heartwarming though.
It's cool. I love it, but it's just like
that one.
Like somebody walks up to Kevin Feige and says, "Hey, is the kid in Iron Man 2 Peter Parker?" And he goes, "Sure." He's like, "Come on." There's no way that during Iron Man 2 they actually thought that oh yeah, this could be Peter Parker. I mean, they could have. Obviously, I wasn't there, but it is cool that Jon Favreau's son technically played Peter Parker in a movie.
I was just gonna say, I think it was Jon Favreau's son who played that.
Yeah, it was Max Favreau. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting about it is, so, if they really knew all along, which I think we can all safely say that they didn't, that was Peter Parker, but if they really did, that would mean that they had totally pivoted, because that was Iron Man 2, from just the movie prior, Iron Man 1, because they filmed a scene where Nick Fury kind of references that Fox X-Men and Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. So they would have just totally shifted from that.
Right. An unreleased version of that scene.
I think most people are quite happy with how Spider-Man's story really went down in the MCU, and that's just kind of a fun little footnote. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What if? This could be an episode of What If too. But what if? The news comes out that Max Favreau is reprising his role as Peter Parker in Spider-Man 3.
God.
Can you imagine?
Oh Lord! At this rate, we have seen the memes on this movie have been absolutely crazy.
I know, right?
Oh my God! I've seen the pizza guy from Spider-Man 2 is reprising his role in Spider-Man 3. Oh my God!
I mean, Corbin brought up Topher Grace. That could be being comparable to the pizza guy on its own. But
oh yeah, absolutely.
Can you imagine? Like, actually, though, like honestly, I think Topher Grace coming back might be a little more ridiculous than the pizza guy. Like, because the pizza guy, that could be like a cool Easter egg kind of thing. To like sometimes movies do that every once in a while. Absolutely. But Topher Grace as Venom. That would just be completely absurd because Corbin was right. I never thought about that. Sam Raimi never wanted Venom in Spider-Man 3. So there's no way that they're going to go back and, well, I mean, I say this now and then tomorrow they announce that Topher Grace is in the movie, but there's no way they bring back Topher Grace because that's what ended his series too. Arguably, in my opinion, because they were getting ready to do Spider-Man 4. What were they only like a week? Like they were getting ready to shoot in like a week, and then they canceled the film.
Super close, yeah.
So arguably, I would say, and ironically, that was the highest grossing Spider-Man film till Far From Home came out. But arguably, I would say that the addition of Topher Grace, and no fault to his own, it was a studio problem. But the addition of Topher Grace's Venom is probably what killed the Sam Raimi Spider-Man franchise.
Yeah. I would say if there's anybody that I'm least expecting to come back in Spider-Man 3, I'd say it's either of the Venoms. Maybe Tom Hardy if they try to connect up the current.
I think Tom Hardy will be in this.
I think there's a chance, but I don't think they're going Topher Grace.
No, not.
I think
not Topher Grace. No.
I think with Topher Grace, it's kind of sad because. You know, he's very well documented, very nerdy guy, you know, huge Star Wars fan, really into like comic books and stuff too. So, you know, he saw this, you know, fantastic beloved Spider-Man franchise. Saw the opportunity to portray a really cool character from his heyday, you know, Eddie Brock. And then he just got what he got. And on the one hand, I'm like, you should have looked in the mirror and said, do I look like Eddie Brock? Realized the answer was no. And walked away entirely, but he clearly didn't do that. You know, he was excited, and you know what I was thinking would be cool? I honestly am quite excited for Venom, Let There Be Carnage. You know, I know that's
me too.
But I really hope it's like in a similar vein to what the Hellboy remake was. You know, just pure like hair metal insanity. Like they made this film while they were doing way too much coke. And like it's just balls to the wall death metal cooked up as a superhero movie, you know, with Venom and Carnage just going at it. What if we got Topher Grace to play some small role in like Venom 2? What if it just opens with Venom just like beating the hell out of some random dude in an alley, and they pan out and it's just like a bloody Topher Grace title card, you know?
Well,
no, that's the post-credit scene, and then Venom gets sucked into the MCU or whatever for Spider-Man 3 or something.
See Doctor Strange's sling ring portal just open up behind him.
Yeah.
Fade to black.
Have you heard of the Spider-Verse initiative?
My whole thing with Venom 2, they had a perfect title sitting there for them, right in front of their face. It could have been Venom 2, Maximum Carnage, and they didn't do it. So I hope the movie is good.
I do kind of like the title, but it does kind of irk me that you're right. They should have done Maximum Venom or Maximum Carnage. I meant
there.
Yeah. I do like the title, but you're right.
Let me tell you, I do think Maximum Carnage is still coming. I think you're gonna get that, and that is just to me, Maximum Carnage has always seemed like the most appropriate Avengers level event for the spunked. You know, imagine so because Maximum Carnage, for one, it was an event in the 90s, and it was one of Spider-Man's like most brutal and intense and like bloody and
crazy.
It was also kind of one of the first really big crossovers. Maybe not first, but you know, of its time. It was kind of it was unique for that. And so, you know, Sony's got to have the rights to that. And so, I think if you lead with Venom, you set up Carnage like Loki was set up in Thor, right? And then you get Morbius to fill out the cast. We get a Kraven the Hunter movie, maybe that Silk series, and then we bring them all together in what would effectively be either Venom 3 or like the film after that, which is just this big crossover for all those characters, and that is Maximum Carnage. That's their Avengers, you know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe they could just do it.
You know,
like if you're talking about it being like a full-on like spunk like Avengers level event, why not just call it, like, don't make it a Venom film, just call it Maximum Carnage, and it's not a Venom movie, it's not a Spider-Man movie, it's not a Silk movie, I don't know, Silver and Black, it's just a spunk movie, you know, which is such a stupid spunk, but
there's so many better options. Nothing where I feel like they felt like they had to put Sony in it somewhere. It's not Disney's Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Everything that they
shut the hell up, you know. Just come up with something better, you know. It's a bad call, but I do think with the probable, I would say, merging of the MCU and the spunk, that's maybe less likely now. But it always seemed to me that would be the most logical way to build this franchise. And what I mean more with, you know, it being like a Venom 3 or, you know, come right after that type of thing, I fully expect Tom Hardy's Venom to be what Iron Man would be to that kind of film, you know, very central. And it's kind of weird to use Venom for that character, or at least I would have said that a few years ago. Recently in the comics, they've made him like very focal in the Marvel universe. Like King in Black is the big Marvel event going right now, and that's a Venom story through and through. Like the whole world got covered in like symbiote craziness. So yeah.
The thing I'm interested to see too is Christian Bale's character in Thor: Love and Thunder was confirmed to be Gore the God Butcher, who is a symbiote. So
I did not know that.
See if they kind of merge it in like that too. Like you were saying, Corbin, I think it's becoming less and less likely that Sony's universe is going to, you know, merge over with the MCU. But Gore the God Butcher could set things up for a kind of easy segue into that if they go.
Well, my question is, how are they not connecting the spunk to the MCU? Because I mean, I know we haven't seen Morbius yet, but Morbius to me was clearly in the MCU. Clearly, fair. Like clear as day. Fair. They've got Michael Keaton in there, and they didn't say that he was the Vulture, but they had him literally there at the end, like your big boom shock Emperor Palpatine Rise of Skywalker moment. Right. So you know, I can't imagine him not being Vulture. And then they had the Spider-Man murderer mural. In the alleyway when Jared Leto Morbius was walking through, so, and that connects directly to Far From Home.
If I may, I think, you know, you mentioned something earlier talking about why you had faith in Spider-Man 3. I think it's very applicable here. 2 words: trust Feige. You know, I apply that same logic to the MCU TV shows, even with Daredevil seemingly reprising his role, Charlie Cox's version at that. Kevin Feige has never officially told us we were going to get it, or officially told us, you know, the TV shows are or are not canon. But like, there are obviously plenty of different elements in both the you know, Sony's universe of Marvel characters and Jeff Loeb era of Marvel TV, where it would point one way and make you think, okay, well, this is definitely canon, or this is definitely not, you know, because, you know, it's like it's a Morbius trailer versus a Venom movie that was distinctly not part of the, you know,
MCU
of the MCU. And so it's just, I think it's just a matter, it is a matter of time before Kevin Feige does address these things. But until that happens, you know, we can't know anything with absolute certainty. I do think it's more likely than not that we see them merge, though. And with the TV shows, I'm hopeful that they hold them in the same kind of regard and esteem that the fans who watch them do. But it's just a matter of time until we find out.
Yeah, I mean, well, for the TV show side, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is going to be the big question mark for that. But as of right now, there's no reason for the Defenders not to be canon. So I say, I'm not Kevin Feige, but I say they're canon. Especially what we talked about this last week with Kevin Cox. I combined Kevin Feige and Charlie Cox. But yeah, Charlie Cox coming back for Spider-Man. So I think that's the telltale sign of it. The most telltale sign of any that at least the Netflix shows are canon.
And I think if anything else, trust Feige, like you were saying, because he rarely.
That's what we should call this episode. Trust Feige.
Feige, we trust.
Yeah, I dig it. It.
All right. And I was thinking we were doing a lot of what ifs there through our last conversation. We do have some big what if news. I guess Bryce, you want to take over that one?
Yeah, well, if this gives you any hints, this is probably the greatest news of this week, I would say. Like, obviously, Willem Dafoe and Sandman coming back for Spider-Man is cool and all, but I think the best news of the day probably is going to be the fact that it has been revealed that Chadwick Boseman has recorded multiple episodes of What If and will appear throughout the course of at least the first season, which is obviously amazing to see that we will hopefully not only get to see him play the role as T'Challa / Star-Lord, but maybe even Black Panther one last time, which I think would just be absolutely wonderful, because I think it would be kind of, I mean, not disappointing because it's just kind of the way that it happened, but it would kind of stink to have Chadwick Boseman's last role as T'Challa to not technically be Black Panther, but to be Star-Lord, like an alternate version of that. So I'm hoping that means that we will get to see Chadwick Boseman as Black Panther one last time in What If season 1, and I don't know because they. I don't know what the status of season 2 is, because they've already recorded and written all of season 2 as well. I think so. He may also be a factor in season 2 because they renewed that for its second season way early on. So it's very possible that they could have recorded those lines too, and that's what Kevin Feige is talking about, to where he will have the Star-Lord episode in season 1 and maybe another episode in season 2, or maybe still in season 1. But regardless, I am thrilled that we will be getting to see just even a tiny little bit more of Chadwick Boseman in the MCU after his tragic passing.
Yeah, I would have to go and do some fact checking here to our viewers. If I've led you astray, if you Google me here and I'm wrong, that's my bad. But if I remember correctly, when What If was announced, it was originally going to be like a 22 episode length kind of run, and then later, and they did have the second season order at that time. But then later, after a bunch of recording was done, they're like, oh, season 1's going to be 13 episodes. So I believe the episode 10. Count, or is it 10? That's probably 10. It's probably 10.
Let me do the fact checking for our viewers.
Right on. Anywho, but if that is the case, then that basically would mean that they recorded a bunch of stuff, and then broke it up into 2 chunks, which mean you're totally right. It is possible.
I do think you're right about that part, Corbin.
That Chadwick Boseman could actually be in season 2, which I hadn't even considered until you brought it up, and that would mean we would get. If that is the case, it would mean we get him this summer, and then whenever season 2 drops.
So I see 10 episodes for season 1, and I'm also, now this is Wikipedia, so this could be a bunch of BS, but I'm also seeing episode titles.
Oh, nice.
So this is extreme rumor territory right now, because again, this is Wikipedia, so anybody can edit this page. So don't take this as fact, but I'm going to go ahead and read them off anyway because I have them right in front of me. So episode 1 is called Pilot, and then the rest of the episodes actually follow a trend. So episode 2 is called What Now, 3 What Happened, 4 What Drama, 5 What Next, 6 What History, 7 What Ghosts, 8 What Secrets, 9 WTF, and 10 What Remains.
Wow.
So I don't know if those are actually the official titles because I had never seen those before 2 seconds ago. And again, I'm on Wikipedia, so anybody can edit this page and put these titles in. But I guess these are rumored titles for the first 10 episodes of What If.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. I can't tell you how many times I've went looking for some information about an upcoming, Marvel or DC movie or project, and I went to Wikipedia and clicked on the reference, and it took me to someone like Cosmic Book News.
Oh yeah,
covered.
Oh yeah, let me see where the what we got this covered link is on here. Because that's probably actually where these came from.
Be warned if we got this covered, viewers.
Oh yeah,
not trustworthy folk.
I have had Wikipedia actually come in handy once. I remember it was revealed that the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. episodes for season 7, those titles came up on Wikipedia maybe like 6 months before season 7 premiered, and they actually turned out to be right.
Nice.
So there is some kind of precedence there, but we'll see. But as for the Boseman news, like you said, Bryce, I'm thrilled that we get just a little bit more Chadwick Boseman in the MCU. This is likely going to be the final performance of his career. I mean, obviously, let's just say 2020 has been an absolute dump. I mean, probably outside of Kobe Bryant when he passed away earlier this year, Chadwick Boseman's death was one of the most shocking and tragic news that came out of 2020. And the fact that we get him just as T'Challa a little bit longer it's going to be a great memento to his memory. It's going to be a great way for fans to pay tribute to him. And he gets to be a pretty big player in this new show. So I'm really happy for him, and I'm really excited.
Quick second here. So I clicked on a different What If show. That was a Netflix show aired in 2019. The actual What If will also have 10 episodes.
Nice.
But all of those episode titles that I just listed off 2 seconds ago are completely inaccurate. So,
that show's probably going to get a real big boost in views.
Yeah,
summer.
I hope for it does.
because it was like a 10 episode first season. So I went like, oh, this is What If, but it's literally a completely different What If that also happened to have a first season with 10 episodes.
That's an unfortunate coincidence right there.
Oh man,
very much so.
Well,
so someday when we do get What If episode titles, we'll be right here for it.
Oh man, I'm not going to hear the end of this. Okay, well, I mean it's embarrassing, but quite hilarious. That is funny. But
it'll be a good memory a month or two for now.
Yeah, man, I cannot believe I fell for that crap. Okay, well, what's that? Well, that's all the What If news for today. Moving on.
Well, hey, regardless of our snafu, we get Boseman back, and that's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I think, when Chadwick Boseman passed away, it caught everyone so off guard. Like, it caught Kevin Feige off guard. No one, very, very few people knew that he had cancer.
Sick.
They kept it so under wraps. And, it kind of makes me think, knowing that we're going to get to see him in What If, kind of makes me think of, knowing that I was going to get to see Stan Lee at least, 1 or 2 more times in some Marvel cameos and Endgame and stuff. Because with Stan, we knew that was coming. We knew that his health was failing. And so that was just it was a nice comfort. But in this, with Chadwick Boseman, it was so totally unexpected. The fact that we do get his performance in What If is such a blessing. It really is.
My last thing on him, the fact that he had cancer
my gosh
time that he played Black Panther, I mean, that's one of the most incredible performances I've ever seen. Just knowing that story, the fact that he was fighting cancer for 4 years, the whole time he was playing this action hero with so much, stunt work and, physical action while going through chemotherapy the whole time. I mean, you can't say anything to disparage that.
I mean that's a real life superhero right there. I mean, I don't know how it is physically possible that he had cancer that whole time. I mean, obviously I'm not questioning it because I mean I believe it's true.
You never would have
But
been able to.
my brain can't comprehend how someone can be strong enough to do that. Like that is incredible.
Exactly.
Because the physical condition he was in, that alone, not even considering the amount, of stress that filming those kind of action scenes and so many different films kind of puts on you. And that's just Marvel. That's not even to consider the other movies that he was involved in. Because, he filmed a lot of stuff over the past few years. And yeah, the strength that's just nigh unparalleled. Like you hardly ever see someone that dedicated to their craft, that dedicated to being an entertainer and to putting on shows that have value and can connect with people, regardless of the immense pain that he surely was going through.
Well, and how many movies did he do? Like 4?
He did 4 Marvel movies, and then that was on top of all of his other work too.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he wasn't just in Marvel. I mean, he was in was it Black Klansman? Was he in that one?
No, that's John David Washington. Yeah. Good movie though.
Bridges he was in. He just did Ma Rainey's Black Bottom right before he passed. That one just came out on Netflix.
He did Marshall.
Yes.
Yeah, I didn't catch that one yet, but that looked pretty dang good.
Yeah, and it's funny also too. One last thing on Boseman, I also kind of felt a personal little connection with him. He and I actually shared a birthday. November 29th birthday. I remember when they did the Disney Plus tribute to him. They did the same thing that they did with Stan Lee after he passed, an entire Marvel logo tributed to T'Challa, Black Panther, Chadwick Boseman. And it's playing on Disney Plus now in front of Black Panther. But that was kind of cool seeing that on, his and my birthday and everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't think of any sort of uplifting or cheery segue out of that. So let's talk about mental illness. Moon Knight is a TV show coming to Disney Plus.
Wow. You went to the complete opposite end of the spectrum. You were going like, I can't think of a happy segue, so let's just turn it on its head.
Yeah.
I mean, it's an accurate segue, but woo-wee.
That was tough.
Yeah. But yeah, so Moon Knight, we're getting a Disney Plus TV show. Oscar Isaac is most likely playing lead character. That's basically confirmed, but only time will tell. Like we said, trust Feige. That's our slogan now. Once he says it, then we'll know it.
In Feige, we trust.
Yeah, but, that character is Mark Spector. I'm just going to break down his origin real quick. That's cool, y'all. Mark Spector was a mercenary, right? Who basically went out and fought and did militant duties for pay. And he basically ended up taking this one job down in Egypt. And this guy, I believe his name was Raoul Bushman, I think is his arch nemesis. And he was a mercenary with him at that same time. Basically, they would go into the town. Mark Spector has a crisis of identity, realizes that, Bushman is basically going to kill these people. He's going to be super violent. And he just doesn't want to do that anymore. But Bushman ends up murdering him in this temple, temple of this moon god named Khonshu. And I assume I'm pronouncing that right. I've heard it said
pretty sure you are.
Different way. But yeah, and Khonshu basically resurrects him as his avatar to fight for him to protect the travelers of the night. But regarding the mental illness aspect of the character, Mark Spector basically has dissociative identity disorder, where he's got multiple different personalities inside him. So there's Mark Spector, there is Jake Lockley, who's like kind of the ear to the ground taxi driver, and then you've got Stephen Grant, who's like a tech billionaire, kind of in the vein of Bruce Wayne. I think that part of the character is part of why he gets compared to Batman so often. And there are a few other ones. Moon Knight himself can kind of serve as an alter at times. There's the Mr. Knight persona. And great Moon Knight stories really kind of dig into that facet of the character. And so that's part of why I always figured a Moon Knight adaptation would be best on Hulu or back when they were doing the Netflix shows, so that it could get a more adult rating, whether that was TV mature or R, simply because it is a very heavy story to kind of get into, the darker Moon Knight tales, and those tend to be my favorite. But with the show being on Disney Plus, the question is, how mature can they really be with this while still providing a great Marvel product. I'm really excited for the show. So that's that was just a quick breakdown of the Moon Knight. But the reason I bring it up was because Feige kind of confirmed that I'll try and pull up the quote, but he basically said the mental health aspect of the character will be relevant in the TV show. Let me pull that quote real quick.
Well, I mean, I was always shocked that they didn't make Moon Knight. I was almost 100% sure that they were going to do a Moon Knight Netflix show, and then they didn't. So maybe that's because Kevin Feige told them to hold off because he had plans for him. So I guess it's pretty apparent now. But I think it's really cool that they're kind of going down this route, because obviously. We'll definitely be seeing it in WandaVision, but it seems like that is probably going to be a little bit more of a focus here with Kevin Feige coming out and talking about it. So I feel like with WandaVision, her mental health aspect is going to be kind of a thing that they kind of just shove off to the end, because she's going to be pretending throughout most of the series. But whereas Moon Knight, I think this probably means that this is going to be a day one aspect of the show that's going to be throughout the whole thing. So I think that's definitely something really interesting to explore, because you don't obviously see that in superhero movies all that often, because they're supposed to be happy, let's go see buildings blow up, and but so you don't really, it's more, superhero movies are usually an escape for that, but I think it will definitely be a very interesting change of pace to actually delve in and explore that in Moon Knight.
Yeah, absolutely. And I found the quote from Feige. He said, "The mental illness is a unique aspect of the program." So I mean, that tells me that they're going to dive headfirst into it. I was telling Corbin before we started recording, I bet it's probably going to be something like a 6-episode series, like most of the other ones are. They're probably going to have a whole episode, maybe 2, dedicated to the mental health aspect of Mark Spector, because like you said, Corbin, there's about 4 or 5 different personalities in there outside of just him and Moon Knight. So it's going to be a really interesting look. And the thing I'm noticing too, like what you were mentioning, Bryce, with WandaVision, there could be a lot of this kind of look into the mental aspect of the MCU coming in these Disney Plus shows, with WandaVision, Moon Knight, maybe even She-Hulk, because, she's got her whole personality thing going with, transforming into the Hulk again. But it's going to be, Disney Plus is going to be something really different for the MCU going forward. I'm really excited for it to start. And there's going to be obviously a lot of it in the next couple of years.
But yeah, you don't have to wait long. Was it January 15th?
Less than a month.
And then I don't think it will ever end. So January 15th until the end of the MCU. So
right.
We actually get I want to say it's January 8th. Marvel Legends is the other little series they announced that'll basically recap characters' stories in the MCU.
Okay.
And that episode's going to be for Scarlet Witch and Vision. And that, I think, is really cool because that's an easy way to get people up to speed on the old TV shows. If Feige does want to utilize those characters and storylines moving forward. Regarding what you said about Moon Knight and the Netflix series, so basically what happened was they wanted to bring Moon Knight into Iron Fist, right? But that was blocked by Marvel Studios. And so they ended up using a Daredevil villain called Typhoid Mary in season 2, who suffers from a similar condition. So to our fans out there, if you want to see what, MCU dealing with, a character kind of similar to Mark Spector with his split personality disorder, check out Iron Fist season 2, because I think Typhoid Mary is one of the most interesting parts of the show, and it is the only real precedent we have thus far for that kind of thing.
Yeah,
I'm definitely wanting to go back to the Marvel Netflix shows now that Daredevil is going to be in Spider-Man. Because like whenever like I had watched Daredevil seasons 1 and 2. I watched Jessica Jones and I watched most of Defenders, and then it kind of came out that they canceled them all, and so that kind of ruined it for me. So I stopped watching. So I never watched Daredevil season 3, Punisher. I watched a little bit of Luke Cage, and I never watched Iron Fist. So I'm wanting to go back and watch a lot of those because I mean it's definitely something I'm missing out on, and if they're actually still in the MCU, which it looks like it is, I feel like I have more incentive to watch them now. Not that there wasn't incentive before with them potentially not being in the MCU. It's just they kind of ended it, and it wasn't really supposed to end. So it's kind of hard to watch a show knowing that they didn't complete it.
Iron Fist is gonna end you with the worst cliffhanger of your life. You're gonna be like, damn, season 3 looks so cool, and it's just not.
Yeah.
But
they still could do some weird Hulu thing because it does look like they're still in the MCU.
It's possible. And that was another thing I wanted to briefly mention. So Daniel Rickman apparently reported through his Patreon, and this was reported by Full Circle Cinema, I believe, that Kristen Ritter, Jessica Jones, that Marvel is interested in bringing her back in some form as well, like they're doing with Charlie Cox in Spider-Man 3. We don't know what that would be exactly, but if she's being brought back as well, that means the dominoes are starting to fall. It means it's not just Daredevil. So that's potentially a good sign, but I would take it with a big grain of salt for now.
Yeah, I'm taking it with a grain of salt, but I wouldn't be against any of them coming back. I mean, the 4 of them did a great job on the Netflix series. It's unfortunate the way they ended, the whole relationship between Netflix and Marvel. And then just one last little tidbit I think from me on this one. I'm not as much looking back on the Netflix series and seeing what could have been. I am just so thrilled and excited and looking forward to what they're going to do now with the Disney Plus series, because Kevin Feige has been adamant for months that these shows are going to be interwoven with the movies going forward. And you can tell right off the bat from the trailers, Loki takes place right after his departure from Avengers Endgame. The Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a direct spin-off from the end of Endgame. So I think what they've been trying to do all along, I think is finally coming to fruition with these Disney Plus shows, and I'm all for it.
Well, yeah, I feel like the Disney Plus shows are what the Netflix and ABC shows were supposed to be, because that's what they originally were marketed as, especially Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Where Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. it is an Avengers spinoff. That's what it was. Exactly. And then all of a sudden it kind of wasn't.
Season 5,
So, I'd argue even before that, like they just kind of stopped talking about it. Right. And they weren't really referring to it as like it is directly connected to the movies. It is a direct spinoff to Avengers. Yeah. So and it's the same with Daredevil and all the other Defender shows. Is like they kind of talked about they talked about the attack on New York and they kind of mentioned little events here and there. They mentioned the Avengers, but they never really made that full connection there. So it's like it was always kind of one of those deals. Is it really connected? But I feel like that's kind of what they're trying to mend here with him showing up in Spider-Man and then Kristen Ritter potentially making an appearance at some point. Did you say in She-Hulk? If not, that would be the perfect one.
It's not. We don't know where she would show up if that is true. And
that would be a great place, though.
Yeah, no, I'd definitely be game for that. I think in the case of the TV shows for me, I do want to just stress one thing. I think the TV shows actually do a decent job saying, hey, we are part of this universe, with the exception of Hellstrom, but Hellstrom's officially not canon, so kind of irrelevant. But there are elements throughout them. The issue was always that it was a very one-sided relationship, Exactly. Like even when things were the most interconnected, where Daredevil season 1, you'd be surprised if you go back and watch it, how much it does kind of reference Avengers 1 or Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. references Winter Soldier or even in like Cloak and Dagger, there was one scene that just made me so happy, even though it's such a little thing. It's like one of the heads of the Roxxon Corporation just makes some comment about he's just trying to keep up with the Starks and the Rands of the world. So, Iron Man and Iron Fist, and just hearing in a Marvel property those two be just put side by side was really cool. But it wasn't reciprocated at all. There's
exactly.
I like to look at like Civil War, where Vision is talking, and he says, since we've kind of shown up, other powerful beings and other cataclysmic events have grown at like the same rate with us. I see that, and I'm like, well, maybe they're referencing the TV shows, and they're really not. But if you want to try and force it, you can find things in the the kind of sort of fit. And like there's the Theta Protocol, the Helicarrier in Age of Ultron. So but as you go deeper into the Infinity Saga, you see less and less and less of that on both ends. But the cool thing about the TV shows, because while I would agree with Richard, and I think the Disney Plus shows are going to eclipse what came before. I think they're going to be much better in quality and it's no doubt, no question that they're going to have much more impact. But the cool thing about the TV shows for me, because there is still a few things here and there that I need to go back and either rewatch or finish watching, it's filling out the Infinity Saga, watching those TV shows after the fact. Because the Infinity Saga, from Iron Man to Far From Home, and everything in there, I think is one of the most wonderful, if not the most wonderful, just pieces of storytelling I've ever encountered. And the fact that I can watch these shows that build on the world in subtle but sometimes really awesome ways. Like Agent Carter really nails home the concept that Howard really did have this kind of strong bond for Captain America. And then you go and watch Avengers and you see why Tony's so immediately resentful of Steve Rogers, and like that stuff like that, like just little things, aspects of the Infinity Saga are just made more complete, more whole, more interesting by those shows. And that's why I'll always have love for them. And I'm enjoying going through them even now,
And then even with the Agent Carter thing, James Darcy showing up in Endgame was one of the coolest tributes ever. When he showed up as Jarvis, I mean, it was just a little tease that they could be really connected, but I do think they're going forward and really trying to make it right, 2021 and beyond.
Well, yeah, I saw that. I never watched Agent Carter, but I knew what they were doing with that scene, and I was just like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool that they did that. They're finally acknowledging that there's some other TV shows out there off to the side. So I was glad to see that. Now I might just be speaking like a bunch of random garbage, but I thought I read somewhere like a really long time ago, and for all I know, this could have been from We Got This Covered back before I knew that they were complete. But
we've all been there.
But I thought I read somewhere at some point that if they couldn't get Spider-Man to be able to come to the MCU, Daredevil was a backup in Civil War. Have you guys heard that? Is that true?
I don't know, actually.
I'm not familiar with that. Here's what I do know is when they were starting production up on Civil War, Ike Perlmutter did not want to use he didn't want to use Iron Man, and like he wanted to go with someone a lot cheaper. And if you look at the budget between the Netflix shows and the MCU movies, they're obviously paying them way less. So I think it's possible maybe he wanted to put Daredevil instead. That actually kind of resulted in the splitting of the TV shows and the movies.
That Perlmutter thing,
but I haven't heard that personally, but it definitely seems plausible. He is in the original Civil War storyline. He's not the biggest player, but it would be comic accurate in that sense. Yeah, he is present. Yeah.
Well, then the whole thing with Civil War for me was that the Russos were so adamant that Spider-Man had to be a part of it. Like they originally planned it with Spider-Man in it long before the Sony deal got announced. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, obviously they had to have a backup plan, just in case it fell through, because that was a major thing.
Well, I feel like the Sony deal was in the making almost immediately after Amazing Spider-Man 2 came out, because the only reason why the Sony deal was revealed whenever it was because of the email leaks. So I feel like after Amazing Spider-Man 2 didn't really do what they wanted it to, both critically and financially, It wasn't exactly a box office bomb, but it still wasn't great. I feel like almost immediately they probably started Amy Pascal, Avi Arad, or whoever kind of knocked on Kevin Feige's door and said, "Hey, we're back. Sorry about the sandwich. Was that Amy Pascal who threw the sandwich at Kevin Feige, or?"
I'm not sure, but no, it's a well documented thing that Marvel had interest in using Spider-Man. From Iron Man 1 to that post credit scene they filmed, up to in Avengers 1. Rumor has it that they were originally going to include the Oscorp Tower from the Amazing Spider-Man franchise, but the set wasn't built in time, so that didn't happen. And so and then you're right. The Russo brothers sabotaged the critical and commercial success of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 so that they could use them, and that led us to where we are now.
So exactly after some research, according to sci-fi.com, as in like the TV network, Amy Pascal did indeed throw a sandwich at Kevin Feige after a lunch meeting before the release of Amazing Spider-Man 2.
And I'm sitting here in my restaurant and just cringing at that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine being in the presence of Kevin Feige and treating him with such disdain. Amy Pascal
I can't even imagine being in the process of Kevin Feige.
Now, don't get me wrong. I've proven that I have impeccable research skills, but that one came from Sci-Fi. Okay, that's an actual TV network. Okay,
yes.
So
pretty reputable.
Yeah.
So speaking of the Disney Plus shows, one thing we mentioned She-Hulk, and potentially it'd be cool to see Jessica Jones there. We'd be seeing her in a very new format. All the Netflix shows were about 45 minutes to an hour long chunks. But the She-Hulk TV show apparently will be a half-hour legal comedy. That kind of sets it apart from a lot of the other stuff that's come before in the MCU. The only other MCU projects I would call comedies would be, Ragnarok, Ant-Man and the Wasp. That's really it. Maybe an argument could be made for Far From Home. It really does lean into the kind of comedic side, but I don't know if I would call it one personally.
I'm kind of starting to get some Office vibes from everything that we're seeing about She-Hulk so far, because in that casting exclusive that I mentioned, I think it was either last week or the week before that, they were looking for like a John Krasinski type for a coworker of hers. So maybe it is kind of a John Krasinski from The Office thing, but no, I mean, this series looks like it's going to be something really interesting. And like I was saying before, these series all seem to be doing something unique of each other that have never been done before in the MCU. And they all seem like the first part of WandaVision is supposed to be all these half-hour sitcom type episodes, while the last few are going to be more the 45 minutes to an hour long major Marvel adventures. The She-Hulk one is going to be a half-hour comedy type thing. Falcon and the Winter Soldier is a Falcon and the Winter Soldier movie separated into 6 parts. So that's one of the things I'm most excited for about these Disney Plus series is they're all going to be different from one another while all interconnecting into the greater MCU.
Yeah, and Loki's going to be, I don't know, Loki.
Balls to the wall crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Loki just like you were just listening to them off, and then it's just like Loki just existing is what makes it different from the MCU.
Exactly. The fact that Loki is still around, pulling the stuff he's pulling, is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited to see that kind of format in the MCU with She-Hulk. I do hope that the series does still have that kind of really big scale, kind of not necessarily cosmic feel to it, but She-Hulk
grand scale, Marvel thing.
Some just really big and out there and weird. A lot of people don't know.
Avengers 1.
Yeah, She-Hulk has a way of breaking the fourth wall, not unlike Deadpool from time to time in the comics. I think it would be really interesting if they play on that at all.
That'd be great.
She's dated, I think, both Star Fox, who's Thanos' brother, and then Star God, or otherwise known as Man-Wolf, in the comics. Honestly, I think it's quite unlikely, but if the MCU spunk merging thing that has happened, it would be kind of cool to see Star God in the She-Hulk show as a love interest. And honestly, he could be kind of a John Krasinski type. So he's an astronaut,
that could be
right?
who they're casting for.
It's John Jameson, the son of J. Jonah Jameson. You know, he's an astronaut, and then he basically finds this gem and he takes it home and he wears it, turns him into a werewolf. But then he, ends up drawn back towards the moon, finds this door, goes through it, and then discovers that
Comics are crazy.
He's this like lycanthrope god from this other world called the Other Realm, and it's just super crazy and weird and out there. And he has a history with She-Hulk. So it would be, there's a lot of weird places the show could go. That's basically what I'm trying to say, and I hope they capitalize on that. I want She-Hulk to be weird. Literally,
the only reason why I only kind of know even a tiny little bit of what you're talking about is because of Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2.
Yes.
Whenever he was engaged to MJ.
Yes. I bet you didn't know he became a space opera werewolf.
I did not. I also did not know that Thanos had a son that dated She-Hulk.
It's his brother.
Oh, his brother. Yeah, I never knew that character existed either. That sounds absolutely ridiculous, and that is exactly why I hope they do everything that you just said.
Well, here's my thing with it. The way they're setting up the early projects of Phase 4, the WandaVisions, the Eternals, all of this stuff is possible now. All the stuff that you were mentioning from the comics, they have, reason to go there now. Start with all the craziness that's going to happen in WandaVision. They're introducing the Eternals. I think there may even be teases of like early Thanos and his family and his background and everything that come in Eternals. So they have reason to go there if they want to go there.
Yeah, Star Fox is kind of weird. He's kind of got like the Poison Ivy thing going on, but he's a dude, like control over like pheromones and stuff. So it's really creepy and kind of
super creepy.
Yeah. So whenever he's in a relationship, there's kind of that air of question, like, is this person actually in love with him, or is he using his powers to his advantage? So Star Fox is kind of weird, but he is Thanos' brother. He doesn't look anything like Thanos. It's worth mentioning. Right. He looks like the Eternals will in the Eternals movie.
Well, neither does Gamora and Nebula. So I'm assuming there's probably like some more adoption going on in there. You know.
So in the case of Thanos, so Thanos is an Eternal. It was born like the ones we'll see in the movie, like Phastos and Icarus and Cersei and them, but. Some of the villains of the movie will be the Deviants, right? And he was an Eternal born with Deviant syndrome. And so he's got the physiology of an Eternals, but he looks the way he does, like Grimace. And yeah, so that's why Thanos came out like that. But the rest of his family just look human, but they have the physical abilities of gods.
Side note, Star-Lord's insults to Thanos were just amazing in Infinity War.
Yeah. Shout out to that man, Peter Quill. I definitely take that from
Yeah.
Yeah, Eternals is another thing that's going to be great. I know we didn't really have any news for it. There hasn't been in a while. It is a much lesser known property, but I got to say, I'm really excited for it.
Me too.
I've read some great Eternals comics. I think there's a lot of potential there.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I'm really excited to see. I mean, the potential of the Thanos backstory, because I feel like that's something we're really missing, and I feel like that could be the last piece to kind of connect it all. So I mean, otherwise, I am not at all familiar with the Eternals characters, so it's going to be like a Guardians of the Galaxy thing, to where I'm going to go. Think why are they making this movie, and then I'm going to watch the movie and find out why they made the movie. So because it's going to make like $1 billion or something. So so you were going to say something, Richard?
Well, the Thanos thing I am super excited for, because I think is by far the best villain that the MCU has put forward. I mean, Josh Brolin did an incredible job, especially in Infinity War, and anything relating to Thanos is going to be great. The thing I'm excited for is going back through all the different eras of human history, like with the Eternals, because they are these immortal beings who have been on Earth for seemingly a long, long time. So we'll get to see, how they interact with, I've heard there's like a Babylonian scene, maybe they'll be in like ancient Egypt and all these incredible eras of human history, and then possibly what they've been doing during the Infinity Saga. So it's going to be a really, really, deep and, hardcore big movie. So I'm really excited to see what they do with Eternals.
One of the big questions for me that still remains right now is, so there's basically two main kind of sects of Eternals. You've got the Eternals here on Earth, and we know that are going to be the main characters of the film. The ones I just mentioned, Icarus, Cersei, Bastos, Kingari, or Kingo, my bad, Makari, there are others.
Yes.
Dina, regardless, Ajax. There's that group, and then there is the group of Eternals who lived on Titan, right? And we saw Titan in Infinity War, the only thing that really separates them is the location. But the question is the movie going to be exclusively focused on the Earthbound ones, or will we also see them touch on Titan? Because that'd be a cool way to tie the movie into Infinity War, which is, I think most people would agree, the single greatest, piece of work Marvel's ever done.
Well, maybe Endgame, but
maybe.
But
no,
I'm thinking
on the Infinity
Endgame.
War train, but Endgame's close.
I think for me,
I've got a few problems with Infinity War actually, but I'll let you finish your statement before we probably deep dive into that one.
So the thing that makes Infinity War so special, I think, is it's before Loki, it's the closest thing we have to a story told from the perspective of a villain. It's damn near a Thanos movie. It
basically is.
Like he is really the protagonist there. Like he sets up the conflict and he goes on his mission and he wins. I'll never forget
far more screen time than anybody else.
The crushing feeling, of seeing my heroes snapped and the credits rolled and knowing I was gonna have to wait over a year to see that get resolved.
Exactly.
And some of my favorite comics I've ever read are Thanos solo comics. I would give my soul for like a Thanos Disney Plus series.
Me too.
The one place I do expect him to show up, even though we don't know when the Nova project is ultimately going to come out, and we haven't really heard many updates on it, but we do know they are working on a Nova project.
I read that exclusive a while back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the one place I think we definitely should see Thanos again is in Nova, because I think it's interesting how Infinity War opens after the decimation of Xandar. Thanos already has the Power Stone, but we never get to see how that plays out. In the comics, it's the Annihilation Wave that basically tears through and destroys Xandar and leave only one member of the Nova Corps, who basically then becomes Nova and has the combined power of all of them. But in the MCU, that was Thanos, and my guess is there was one member of the Nova Corps who survived, got a pretty dope helmet, and we'll get to see that someday. And so I'm so excited for Nova just because there's the prospect of more Thanos in it, So that's why I'm giving it to Infinity War more than anything.
I'll give Infinity War its ending. Like whenever I came out of the theater, I was literally like I could not talk. Like usually like after like me and my dad are usually the ones who go see these things together, and obviously we're like talking the whole car ride home, like speculating like what this means, what's going to be the next one. Right. But the car ride home was dead silent. Like I didn't in going into the next day. Like my dad tried to talk to me about the movie, and I literally was just like, I don't want to talk about it. Not because I hated the movie, which I'm gonna get to why I kind of dislike it, but let me preface, I don't hate the movie, but it was just so like my brain couldn't handle, like they literally just killed half the Avengers. Yeah, so I will give Infinity War that. You say that Thanos is. It's basically a Thanos movie. My problem with it is that it isn't. It is an Avengers movie. I almost argue that the Thanos stuff could have been its own separate movie. My big, huge problem with Infinity War is that it feels like it's 5 movies in one. like my brain is constantly like the movie's just like go 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 go, and there's no time to breathe. Some people think that's see that as a plus side, and obviously that's their own thing. For me, that was kind of like I can't handle this, So like there was too much, and there wasn't enough time to focus on everything that the movie was kind of showing. So that's kind of my problem with it. A lot of people like the go, go, go aspect with these kind of movies, and that's definitely their prerogative. It's just for me, the kind of let's cram everything as possible and just do everything all at once kind of thing. It just doesn't work for me, because Captain America had his stuff, and then Iron Man had his, and then there was Thor and the Guardians, and then there was Thanos, and then there was everybody else sprinkled in everywhere. So yeah, for me, Infinity War was just a little too much, and I feel like Endgame was able to keep it a little more grounded.
Yeah, here's my thing differentiating between the two movies before we move on. I think Infinity War overall was a better movie, but Endgame had higher peaks. That's kind of how I see it. But both of them are obviously fantastic. They are the pinnacle
of course.
of what the MCU has done. It's been building up to that for a decade. But yeah, and like you said, the way you did exactly like the whole go, 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 that was kind of more my thing. I enjoyed that. I thought they did a fantastic job with Thanos. Obviously they made him one of the greatest.
Me too,
yeah, I think Thanos is in the argument for one of the greatest villains of all time, like in any movie ever. Like
Darth Vader and Thanos is probably like that. So
they're pretty close. But then Endgame, the portal scene at the end, that is, I think, the peak moment in the MCU for me. When
that's whenever the floodgates started.
The literal superhero floodgates. And before Cap said Avengers Assemble, that was.
Yeah, well, I was talking about these floodgates, like right here, the tears. Yeah,
I think that was the loudest I have ever heard a movie theater in my life, and I was cheering along with it. So that's my feelings. But obviously, both incredible. It's gonna be a while till we get anything like that again.
You mentioned the portal scene, and look, is there anything cooler in cinema than the third act of Endgame? No, I'm not saying that there is. It was the greatest thing ever. It was absolutely just phenomenal, and it always is every time I've rewatched it. But regarding Infinity War, though, and what you said about the pacing, y'all flamed me last time for showing some love for Rise of Skywalker. So, obviously, I had no problem with the style there, and that goes even faster and crazier and more chaotic than Infinity War does. But
I'd agree there.
But the thing is, in the case of Rise of Skywalker, it's because they had so many things that they felt that they needed to do, right? I think in Infinity War, the kind of chaotic speed at which events are unraveling and the plot is moving forward, it serves a purpose. It serves what Thanos said, I am inevitable. When you're watching the movie, you know how it's going to end. Even when I sat down in the theater opening night to watch it, some guy behind me was like, Thanos is going to kill them all. And I didn't believe him, but he was right. Thanos, he was inevitable. And so it's like, it builds the tension and the stress, just the way things are coming at you so fast. And it just seems like everything's up against a wall and not going to work out. And it doesn't, And
they took more risks in that movie than almost any major tentpole blockbuster, at least in our era, maybe in movie history. And it paid off.
It's true.
The only movie I could even argue that did a similar thing for entirely different reasons was Joker. Because Joker, it looks almost nothing like the comic book version of the character, but it blew up regardless.
Well, like I said, I give Infinity War that aspect, and is that ending was probably one of the biggest moments in cinema history, almost up there with the "I am your father" kind of thing. Like that, like Thanos literally just killed not only half of the Avengers, but half of the entire universe of living life forms in general.
Yep.
So that was definitely up there for one of the biggest moments in cinematic history. You kind of mentioned the Rise of Skywalker. The difference between the two is that the Rise of Skywalker didn't make any sense.
Fair enough.
So literally Palpatine comes back and he's like, I'm back, and then they're like, how? And he goes, I'm back, and then the weird thing with Lando and that other chick, the horse girl, at the end, where they just look at each other. Apparently they're supposed to be father and daughter according to some book. Probably an important part if you're going to have them literally have this like really weird moment where they look at each other in the movie. And then there's the Rey, I got something to tell you.
Oh yeah.
What? Well, what do you got to tell her? He never told her in the movie. Like, apparently it was supposed to be that he was a Force user, but they never said that in the movie, so that's never clear. But I guess according to the a Star Wars holiday special, he's got a lightsaber now. He's training to become a Jedi. When did that happen? Like, so sorry, you unleashed the beast on that one, Corbin. That was your fault, Corbin.
It's all good. We're on Star Wars right now, anyways, and I still have not watched The Mandalorian. But
I will say. I'm not gonna spoil it, but
I heard what happened.
Yeah, they saved Star Wars.
May have tuned in for the end of the episode and just watched that.
I've heard they're finally going a little Marvel with it, and maybe that's what's kind of helping them out. So
the Mandalorian saved Star Wars with that season finale. Is all I'm gonna say. So
well done.
Yeah.
Well, I think what's kind of interesting about it is, without giving too much away, it deals with a character who's relevant in the sequels, right? And so it's bridging the gap between their last appearance and their appearance in those films. And it's interesting because, Mandalorian has been so much better received than the sequel trilogy was, but it is literally a prequel to those films. It's bridging the gap between the original and the sequel trilogy. And I think you see a lot of fans out here who just like to pretend that's not the case. But I think it's interesting in that context. And my Phantom Menace review went live. I mentioned on the last episode that I'd started.
Oh, did that happen?
Yeah. So my
you already did it? Oh, I gotta go read that.
Yeah. And I have since watched Attack of the Clones, the Clone Wars movie, and started season 1 of Clone Wars. Don't have the articles up for those yet.
Oh, you're going through Clone Wars too?
Oh yeah, I'm good.
My gosh, you are going all in for this. Okay.
I'm going from Phantom Menace to Rise of Skywalker. So it'll go Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, Clone Wars movie, Clone Wars.
I may have to do that with the MCU sometime.
Yeah. Oh, it's a good time. I went from the MCU back to front with my friend Steven back senior year, and it was a beautiful journey. Let me tell you. It led up right to Infinity War. We finished like shortly beforehand too. It was
bad.
Anyways, but yeah, then you got Rebels. You have the original trilogy, Rogue One, Solo. There's something called Star Wars Resistance, which was like more
that one's kind of weird. I don't know.
It's canon though, and it's got
it's canon
and Poe Dameron, so I'm gonna watch that too.
Yeah,
and then I'm gonna run the sequel trilogy again.
So
I'm
actually,
the whole thing. I'm doing the whole thing.
I don't well before I don't know how fast you binge, so I'm gonna say this right now. Watch Revenge of the Sith before the last 4 episodes of the Clone Wars, because they take place in tandem with each other at the exact same time.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you need to rewatch Revenge of the Sith before you see everything that goes on with the Ahsoka side on the Clone Wars, because I feel like you really gotta watch. I mean, I know you've watched Revenge of the Sith already, but you really gotta watch Revenge of the Sith and then Clone Wars season, the last 4 episodes of Clone Wars season 7, because the events are literally taking place at the exact same time. So
that's good to know. Yeah, I even considered, because the Clone Wars show itself it goes largely chronologically, but some episodes are out of place if you look at the canon, and I considered mapping that out and watching it in the exact right order. I'm not going to do that. I will take your advice. I will take your advice on that, though. I'm not going to get to season 7 for a while, though.
Probably some people.
Maybe 2 episodes a day, maybe 3. So
I'm a really slow watcher, kind of like that. But some people will watch like an entire season of like that in like a day. So, so yeah, I didn't know about that. But I was getting ready, but I kind of lost it now. But The Mandalorian. we were completely off topic now, but the Mandalorian, I think kind of makes one of the sequel movies. I don't, because we're borderline. We basically already told them at this point if they haven't watched. But
good job.
but no, to me, if I hadn't watched the episode, I know exactly who we were talking about. But I feel like most Star Wars fans have already seen it anyway. But just in case, because it is still pretty fresh. But one of the sequel movies wasn't highly received, which is 2 out of 3. I think it kind of makes that character make a lot more sense now, because let's say a fate, the fate of one of the characters from Mandalorian, we pretty much kind of know now. It's pretty much doom and gloom for that character.
Right.
So it totally makes sense. A lot of the stuff from one of the bad ones, So
I'm really excited to do this whole rewatch, in large part because, like I've said before, the sequels did not give me what I was hoping for. I felt like they did at first, and then time kind of went on and my perspectives kind of changed. But I'm really hoping that when I watch them in the greater context of everything, the entire saga, that I'll see them maybe in a different light. Like, for example, in my Phantom Menace review, I mentioned one of the coolest things, maybe not the coolest, well, one of the coolest things about the Phantom Menace is watching Sheev's story unravel alongside Anakin's, watching Palpatine's deception and manipulation from day one is so cool. And I just watched Rise of Skywalker not too long before that. And so to watch the end and then to watch the very beginning back to back was pretty cool. So I'm excited to have the whole franchise kind of re-examined. And I'll be doing reviews for the TV shows of the seasons individually. I think that's probably the most methodical way to go about it. Sure. So I'll have my Attack of the Clones and Clone Wars review, and then Clone Wars Season 1 as soon as I finish the season, in not too long. But that'll be cool.
So now my next unrelated to Marvel and DC question about Star Wars is that when are we just going to say that this is also a Star Wars show? Because it pretty much is.
Right.
It's all connected. Star Wars is totally copying Marvel now. If you've seen their new slate for Star Wars shows, honestly, I think we should probably just finally just include Star Wars and all this.
Call it for what it is.
Yeah. Because it's all connected. It doesn't. It's a name that obviously directly is a comic book thing. And it was originally a slogan for the MCU, right?
Yeah, that was what the Marvel TV heads used to say about the shows before. Yes. Kevin Feige was like, "Hey, shut up! Stop talking about it."
But now it is all connected, and so I feel like that is definitely what they're doing with Star Wars as well. With the Mandalorian, Rangers of the New Republic, Ahsoka Tano, and spoiler show for Mandalorian. So they're definitely going full MCU, at least with the Mandalorian side of things. So I think we could say it's all connected for Star Wars too. And Star Wars is technically a Marvel property with the comics. So technically, Star Wars is still Marvel news. If we and it's Disney. So we got to talk about the comics first, and then segue into the movies or something. But
absolutely,
there's still that connection there.
Yeah, no, you definitely do bring up a good point. We're gonna see, Ahsoka, the one you mentioned, Rangers of the New Republic. We're gonna see so much different stuff. One of the things I'm most excited about is it's the Acolyte. It's gonna be another Disney Plus series.
Me too.
That one's
me cool. too.
Some I think it's supposed to be a female lead.
Yeah, it's a female-led series, and it's gonna take place.
Dark side.
Yeah, it's going to take place in the High Republic era, which is this new big multimedia thing that Lucasfilm is doing with like the books, the comics, the TV shows, maybe the movies. So it's kind of their answer to the whole Old Republic, because everybody was asking for the Old Republic, but they couldn't just give fans exactly what they wanted. So they made something that was kind of the Old Republic.
Right.
So I don't know why they couldn't have just done the Old Republic. Maybe they're gonna try and spin it and make it to where all of that is still canon. So they kind of don't want to touch that stuff. And if that's the case, I'm totally okay with it. But yeah, as of right now, I'm a little confused on why the High Republic is what they're doing and not the Old Republic. But it's still really cool because we're going to see a lot of Jedi stuff, which is something that's been lacking since the prequels. Because basically any era past the prequels, there's basically like one Jedi doing all the work or something. It's either Luke or it's Rey, and there's no other Jedi out there. Whereas
per se.
Yeah. but sadly enough, unless, well, I guess that there's supposed to be that terrible event that happens that kills off all the other Jedi, but that still doesn't explain, because obviously there's the spoiler character that I'm referring to, and then but what happened to Ahsoka? Did she just die of old age or what? There's the dude from what is his name, Kaz or something from Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah, Cal Kestis.
And I mean, everyone from Rebels. So I don't think they would have died of old age, especially Ezra. They haven't really explained where he went to. Sabine is kind of a Force user, Mandalorian hybrid kind of thing. So where's she at? So I've got to assume at least Ahsoka's dead, because she was one of the Force people or whatever that talked to Rey.
I'll have to pull the quote, but someone at Lucasfilm explicitly stated, they were like, just because Ahsoka's voice is there doesn't mean that she's dead. So I feel like they were kind of hinting that she's not.
Then they've got some explaining to do on how the Force visions and ghosts work, because the whole point is that you have to die first.
Right.
But yeah, and pivoting real quick back to what you were saying about the High Republic versus the Old Republic. So at first glance, it definitely seemed like this was just Disney saying, well, we're not going to do the Old Republic, we'll do something similar, right? But it was revealed recently, just like a day or two ago, that the High Republic era ends just 50 years before Phantom Menace. And so that's really interesting, because the acolyte... Yeah, I swear to God.
Are you serious?
Let me pull it.
You're going to have to send me that, because that blows my mind.
High Republic era 50.
Yeah.
Just a second here.
That completely changes how I look at all of this, because I was under the assumption that it was like 100 years before, but I guess it could have been a long period of time, and then like 50 years before to the Phantom Menace and on is like the Clone Wars era, kind of, because I know the Clone Wars doesn't start until after Attack of the Clones, but it's still the era. Like all the events leading up to it are building up to that. So I know somebody in the comments was gonna have some of this. But well, actually, the Clone Wars didn't start till after Attack of the Clones.
So it's interesting, because they've almost written themselves into a tough spot there, because in Phantom Menace, Qui-Gon basically tells the council that he thinks that Maul's a Sith Lord, and they're like they say a Sith hasn't been seen for like over 1,000 years or something like that. Like they specifically timestamp it in Phantom Menace. But now we've got a dark side centric series set at the end of the High Republic era, so within a century of Phantom Menace. And so it's like, okay, so are they not a Sith user, or is it going to be some series where the main characters kind of operating in secrecy? It's maybe some shadowy organization kind of thing. It also raises the question, how likely is it that we see characters we're familiar with? Could we see Palpatine involved? Could we see Yoda? Or maybe even Dooku or someone like that.
If it is the case that indeed this does take place 50 years before the Phantom Menace, we're going to see Plagueis, especially if it's supposed to be a dark side centric show. We're definitely going to see probably a young Dooku, like young, like youngling. And then I just got that. And then it's from a verified account, so Oh wait, no, that's an official Star Wars account.
It's not. It is verified
It's
by
not?
something else. No.
Oh, okay.
I am not as much of an expert on the kind of exclusive side of things for Star Wars as I am for Marvel and DC.
Star Wars Evo?
I don't know. So take the 50 years comment with a grain of salt, but it was coming from a verified reporting account.
It's like a
Culture
Chinese
Crave or something.
Yeah. And coming from a guy who isn't quite as ingrained into the Star Wars universe as you guys, it's a good time to be a Star Wars fan going forward.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. I think it's it's a Chinese site that this is coming from. So that's a pretty random, but yeah, that changes a lot about the Acolyte.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I was thinking, any other actually Marvel and DC stuff we got to talk about before the show ends?
Let me pull the list.
We just spent 20 minutes on Star Wars, so. I think I'm going to start marketing this as a Marvel, DC, and Star Wars show at this point now.
Just in case.
Yeah, because just so we can include it, because there's a lot of Star Wars stuff that I'd like to talk about, but we don't really. Yeah. Especially all the stuff from the investors meeting that we completely skipped over, which we wouldn't have had time for anyway, because that episode was already 2 hours long. But but that could have been like 3.
The last thing I know Marvel that I wanted to mention was that Nomad show that they're thinking about doing for.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Now I don't know for sure if they're planning on it as a movie or a Disney Plus show, but I'm really interested to see where they go with it, because the consensus kind of general theory was that Captain America took on the Nomad persona during that little time in Infinity War, but between Captain America Civil War and Avengers Infinity War. Mm-hmm. So I'm really interested to see what character they actually use for that. Because I doubt Chris Evans would come back for another full length Marvel feature, because he's got his other stuff. He's doing that Buzz Lightyear show, which Buzz Lightyear movie, which should be pretty fun. But they could take it a few different ways. It could be a spinoff from the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It could be, a descendant of Bucky or Falcon, maybe even U.S. Agent coming into play. Mm-hmm. But I am curious to see where they take that series, and it's another legacy series coming off the heels of the Infinity Saga.
I hadn't heard of that yet. Has that just been recently rumored, or
Murphy's Multiverse reported as a rumor? Yeah.
When was this? I completely missed that.
Sometime in the last week or so.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it didn't happen I was more this happened months ago, and I completely missed this.
No, this is in the last few days.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Well, that sounds really cool. It'd be kind of weird though, because Nomad is supposed to be Captain America, but I don't really want Chris Evans to come back. Right. So, I mean, look, if Chris Evans came back, I'd be excited, but I'd also be like, but Endgame. But here's the thing: if Chris Evans came back, it would be a prequel. Right. So, and it's in the same vein of Black Widow.
Yeah.
So I feel like in that regard, I feel like it would be fine. But
that would be pretty cool if they do Nomad between Civil War and Infinity War, a la Black Widow. That would be a pretty cool series with Chris Evans.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd be game with it. I think for me, I'm not asking for any more of Chris Evans, Steve Rogers. I think his story from beginning to end is phenomenal. I think the Captain America trilogy is the best superhero trilogy of all time. Honest to God,
discussion for sure.
And it's phenomenal through and through. So I think if they were gonna make Nomad do this prequel kind of thing like Black Widow, I think they'd be doing it for the right reasons, and they would only make it with Chris Evans if they knew this is just going to make the Infinity Saga better. I'm always here for that, But I think it's probably more likely we see a different character take on the role of Nomad than Steve Rogers.
I think that's more likely too.
Yeah. I don't mean to rush this show to a conclusion, but if we keep going on for much longer, my phone's literally going to die. So
don't worry.
We got so the last thing I just wanted to mention quickly then, and then we'll wrap it up. Was another report, I believe, from Daniel Richtman, basically saying,
I know what you're going.
So Justin Hammer and Ironheart.
Yes, Justin Hammer.
Yes.
And Ironheart.
Yeah, so they were both rumored for Armor Wars to play a role in that, which I was totally expecting Ironheart. I think I mentioned it on the show last week. Ironheart to play a role in that, which we know
only to connect.
Only confirmed cast member right now is Don Cheadle, and then Justin Hammer played a role in the original. The character played a role in the original Armor Wars storyline. So that wasn't like a big shock.
I'm excited about that one. That's pretty cool because he's been MIA since Iron Man 2, right?
Yeah, we haven't seen it anymore.
That little one shot was it sometime in phase 2, one of those one shots that they used to do. But I would be so excited. I loved Sam Rockwell in the role, and I'm down for more Justin Hammer.
I think it would be really interesting to see him living in a world post Tony Stark as well.
Yes.
His rival, this person that he tried to emulate but really kind of hated. And what does Justin Hammer's world look like without Tony Stark?
Tony Stark. Yeah,
and
exactly.
I'd definitely be cool to get into.
Agreed.
But yeah, I think this has been a damn fun time hosting the show this week. Y'all got anything else you wanna get into before we call it a day here?
Well, I got a couple of cool things coming up. Like I was mentioning before the show, I just interviewed Gary Dordan from Redemption Day, which is coming out next month. I'm going to be writing up a little thing with him in the next couple of weeks, and it's going to be releasing sometime before the movie comes out. And then I also just watched Soul to do a little press release for the new Disney movie coming out, the new Disney Pixar movie. Great movie. See it when it comes out. So I'm going to be busy over the next couple of weeks working on that stuff.
Right on. That's it.
Yeah, I've got nothing else, but besides my phone is at 6% and dropping. So,
All right.
Cool. So, it's been a good time.
Great time with you guys as always.
Yeah, thanks to everybody who tuned in and chats with us in the stream. We'll see y'all next week for episode 4. It's all connected.
See you, everybody.